What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Watching Now podcast over here on CouchSoup, where we are diving into every new episode of Halo Season 2, and it's finale day, guys. It's the final episode of Season 2. Woo!
Big day,
Double
big day.
dealers.
We're going to get into, there's a ton to unpack. It's a long episode. There's a lot of new stuff that happened in this episode. There's a crazy amount to get through, so we're going to get through all of that. But before we get to that, we just want to say a big thank you to our sponsor for this episode. And our sponsor for this episode is Paramount Plus. So if you're not watching Halo, make sure you go down into the description and follow that link where you can go to Paramount Plus and create your own account and you can watch Halo. Because on Paramount Plus, they have Halo. They also have the Knuckles series coming up soon. They have a bunch of cool stuff on there. So go and sign up for a account over on Paramount Plus. If you support them, they also support us. So it's a win-win for everybody. Go and do it. Thank you again to Paramount Plus for supporting us. We love you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So introducing our cast for this episode, you have myself, Nick, your host. We also have Dan.
Move like you got a purpose, Marines.
We also have Tom. And the Soup Man Drew.
Hello, I'm Soupman Drew, also known as the Spartan that died immediately when he landed on this ship.
All right, what's up, guys? So let's jump into the episode recap of the season finale of season 2. It's time to finish this fight. Alrighty, so we open up episode 8 with Chief. He's in a suit, but no helmet. He's kind of just in the dark, and he's talking to a mysterious person. And I'm like, where the hell is he? Who the hell is he talking to? This is all very like vague and confusing. It's one of those like, I forget the term. It's like not in media res, but it's like, you know, where Chief is already kind of at the end and you kind of like he's narrating it almost and you kind of play catch up throughout the episode. I love this storytelling device. But I'm like, who the hell is he talking to? Because I don't recognize that voice and we don't see that person. It's like, this is very interesting. And I think we have the explanations for it, but we'll get to that later. We then see some cool little the CGI scenes where we see some microscopic like bacteria of sorts. And they like, I think Miranda's studying it at the time. She's looking through a microscope at it, and they call it spores for the first time, which I don't know if, I think you guys were saying that was the flood thing, was like spores.
Yeah, that was our theory last week that they open that thing and that's going to release
and it's
the
a flood.
flood.
Yeah. So that's the first time I was like, oh, damn, like Dan and Tom are right. It's a spore. It's definitely a spore. So obviously flood. And we didn't really have to wait long for that to be confirmed. But what I thought was really, really funny, it was such a great way to open the episode, is that little, she's like a scientist or a lab assistant. Her name was Janine.
Like she was
and
super
she's kind of
Weasley.
Yeah, she's like really annoying, and she's like, "Oh, Miranda, I love you. Oh, please can I help you with
way
this?
too
Or can I
bubbly
help
for
you with that?
Miranda.
Whatever." And I was like, I'm sure nothing's gonna come out of her scenes at all, and she's infected.
But like, if you
Like,
think about it,
straight away.
she's apparently a biologist, which you would assume that means she knows proper protocol to touching stuff and she doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
So the fact that
But she didn't touch it. She told Miranda that she didn't touch it. She
Oh,
wasn't.
She
yeah. totally
hesitated
touched it.
though. She
She
hesitated.
totally touched it.
She touched it, which means she bloody raw dogged touching a random alien artifact that they're like, we don't know. Let's just, oh, this is cool. Ah, shit, I'm infected now. Up it days.
Meanwhile, talking shit to Miranda on like how she's not her mom was a better biologist than she is, or whatever. It was like
Yeah.
kind of a weird moment too. You're like, why is this? What's happening right now? And you're like,
Yeah.
it was a interesting moment.
You kind of hate her a little bit. You're like, you know what? If anyone's gonna be patient zero, I'm glad it's you.
yeah. Even Miranda was like, get, I got work to do. Peace out, please. This is an interesting like device that they use here, right, with this cold open, right, to kind of set up this larger problem, because like the way the last episode ended, you're kind of like, we're in space battle mode. Chief is on the way to the ring, and we're kind of jumping into this pretty long cold open where we don't see any of that, right? We don't even know where Chief is. He's in some weird dreamscape talking to some unknown voice, and now we're in like this like Resident Evil style like opening where the T virus is getting out and infecting everybody kind of vibe. And I think the only problem I have with this cold open is they don't really show how the transmission is like how the virus or how the spore is infecting people, because it starts out to seem like it's airborne, like in the sense that it's just floating and everybody's getting infected via airborne or via touch. Like I have it, I touch you, you have it, kind of like a cold would be. Kind of like what was that movie? Not Outbreak. That
Contagion?
infection, Contagion. It kind of like Contagion. You know how it shows like the dust around people's hands when they touch a doorknob, and that whole movie scene, like, and how like you're kind of like, oh shit, that's cool. And this had that vibe to it, but then later on, that sort of goes out the window. That sort of idea that it's spreading airborne or spreading by touch, like, so I was a little kind of confused. But anyway,
we then go to Perez, and she's in space, and I remember from the last unit is being deployed, and she's in a big ship, and she's actually part of Kai's unit, and it's space battle time. This is what I was looking forward to so much in this episode, was seeing how they do this, like the battles in space, because I mean, we've seen a lot of battles in space, right? We've seen Star Wars, we've seen Star Trek, there's a lot of stuff that we've seen in space, but holy shit, were the space battles cool in this episode.
It caught me off guard, like when they were like getting ready to jump out. And it's like, Kai's like, all right, ready, steady, bang.
This is what we trained.
Explosions, like, oh shit, are they all dead now?
Yeah, it was a little weird though, like that the front of the ship, like they were facing the fleet, but the back of their ship exploded. I was kind of like, I didn't know how that, like they showed a laser beam up and around. I don't know.
I thought it was a thing where they were flying in there, and then they Tokyo drifted back like this, so
and
they
just
could
shot
open
all the Spartans out the back,
so
like,
that they could all just
Yeah.
that's the impression I got.
and they add to that chaos by adding in like the corpses of the other Spartans when they're like, debris field, wait, this isn't debris, corpses, you know, and they're like crashing into the other dead Spartans that have already been blown out of space, and just they're trying to dodge around them.
That was brutal. That was.
I think
I thought that was pretty good. It kind of told the story of like, this is how like vicious it is for these. I mean, because all we knew about in the last episode is that waves of Spartans had been sent on this suicide mission, and then now we were actually seeing the results of that. So I thought that was really well done. We then get back to Chief, and Chief is kind of in park at the beginning of this episode. He's still trying to just, I guess, decide. He seemed pretty dead set at the end of last episode, but I loved how they had that coin where we were talking about this last week, where he has that coin, which is like, he's always been lucky, that like he always flips the coin and he always guesses right. That's his whole thing, is that he's lucky. And I love this sort of visual symbolic storytelling of basically he's not lucky. That's just how good he is. He can see it's going to be heads or tails. So the idea of picking heads or tails is like it's his choice. You know, it's his sort of his I don't want to say destiny, but like he's in control. And I feel like this was really good in this scene where he kind of takes control, especially because Parangoski then contacts him. I guess she found his number somehow, and I suppose he's on one of their ships, I guess.
Yeah.
I was just thinking it'd be so funny if Chief is just like, new phone, who dis? And then just hung up.
He kind of does, actually.
He kind of does. I loved it. But yes, he contacts him saying she's happy. The first thing she says as well, she's like, I'm happy you're back with us. And I'm like, bitch, what gave you that idea?
Or that gaslighting.
Like, he hijacked one of your ships in the last episode. Like, Parangoski just all out cards in attack, Hail Mary gaslighting right now.
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
There you go.
There it is. But yeah, Chief's not having any of it, and he pretty much just hangs up on her. And that's all we see from Chief for the time being. Because then we go back to Quan and Soren. And Quan and Soren, they had themselves a bit of a journey this episode. So it starts where Quan gets a vision from the shaman lady. So it's that shaman lady from Sanctuary, from episode 1. She spoke to Chief and was like, you are the devil, blah, 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 blah. So she's kind of, I don't know why she spoke to Chief at the beginning. I don't even know if she's even alive. Like, what is she? Do you guys have any ideas?
Well, I just thought of something. So it could be that she called Chief the devil because Chief's the one that can activate the rings, and if she's connected to the flood, he's one of the only people that can stop them. So in the flood's eyes, he's the devil. But
So the covenant think Chief's the devil. The blood are not going to think Chief's the devil. Poor guy.
Well, they sort of explain who she is at the end of this episode, which we'll get to, but it still doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah.
Like on who she is. You still don't really.
I think they just kind
No
of
idea.
took her as like she probably was an actual person in the beginning on Sanctuary, and then she died, and then the flood somehow took her presence and her essence and decided we're going to use this
You
as
think
some
so?
form of embodiment to talk to Quan and just try to like put in their will, and then they tie it into Quan's history, but again, that's all like what? Okay.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, the
it's-
fact that she spoke to Chief in the first episode makes me think, like you say, that she was actually alive, and maybe she had been contacted by the flood or something, or maybe they believed in it or something. But after, they walk into the lava on Sanctuary, and then she reappears later on, and it's like it's just so weird.
Or it's
And
just
we're
some
gonna
sort
get
of
to a little bit more
spiritual
on
connection
her.
with Quan and her family lineage, that somehow she's got this connection to some ethereal something or
Yeah.
another.
It's pretty wishy-washy here. The whole Quan thing is confusing as all get out. Yeah.
We've never said that about Quan before.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Anyways, so we'll get back to that and Quan and the flood and shaman crazy lady. But in this scene, it's really cool. Quan immediately is freaked out by what the shaman lady's told her, and she tells Soren that the monster is here. So again, another reference to monster, which we'll get to later.
Yeah. I like how Soren is like, all right, well, I got to go back in there and save my kid and my wife.
Exactly. Soren's just like, yeah, cool.
That's great.
cool story, bro.
All right, great. But
All
yeah,
right.
I was expecting him to kind of like have a bigger reaction, but he's just kind of like, all right then. And anyway, I got to go in there
All
and
right.
deal with the monster, I guess. Okay, cool. He's just no matter of
It's
fact.
kind of like he had headphones on, listening to music, and he just saw Quan's lips moving, and then he was like, yeah.
I'm going this way.
Soren takes off to look for Lyra and Kessler because they remember the last episode they got captured by someone for some reason. And we then find out were locked up in a prison cell again for some reason. And by the fate of luck and the roll of the dice, Ackerson is locked up right next to them.
Yay!
And we're like, oh yay, Ackerson. And I'm thinking, ooh, with like this flood thing happening, I'm thinking Ackerson, ooh, I'm not sure he's gonna survive the episode. That's like what I'm thinking at this point, right?
I was like, I didn't want him to die. He was like one of the only like high-ranking people, like him and Halsey. I'm like, please, him, Halsey, Miranda. I'm like, don't die, please, you three. Somehow, like, Deus Ex Machina this shit and get out.
Yeah.
Get out. So we see in that scene Kessler's right next to him, and Kessler asks Ackerson if he is a bad man. And I thought, oh, this is such good writing, because it's basically like saying, hey, this guy who's been bad the entire season, always done bad things, he's like, are you a bad man? And immediately, like when Kessler says, are you a bad man? Like we as the audience, we want to say like, yeah, of course he is. Well, kind of, not
he was.
really anymore. I'm not sure. We don't know. He's kind of up in the air at the moment.
We don't
still
know.
love him.
He doesn't know.
I love the guy, man. But Kessler then approaches a very still lady who's just like, just frozen in the cage, or the cage, listen to me, in the cell next to theirs. And she's just frozen facing away from them. And we get a little bit of a zoom in, a close up on her face. And you can see her face is starting to like deteriorate in some places. And we're thinking, oh, okay, it's a little infection. And then, ew, what the hell came out of her mouth?
Yeah.
It was like some like jellyfish glowing bug thing. I generally don't like cringe at like gross
I would
stuff,
say
but I was like,
that's the show's version of the old school Halo like face hugger type flood baubles that would attach themselves to your face.
Oh, really?
Infection
Okay.
forms.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't
'cause someone
remember
really
it
got
being
me.
like a sluggy like thing.
In the original
like,
game, they were big. They were like soccer balls with tentacle legs that would come after
yeah,
you.
Okay. Yeah. I was
so
kind
is
of
it like the
confused
face
about that.
huggers, like the face huggers from Alien? Same kind of
Kinda,
concept.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
The game's also, it wasn't like if you touch someone infected, you wouldn't get infected. It was only like if the infection forms got into you and then they dug into you, that's how you got infected. So they've changed it a bit to make it more like, as Drew said, T-virus.
Well, right, but later on they kind of retconned it where it almost like it feels like you had to be punctured by it or something. Like
Yeah.
it felt
Yeah,
more
Yeah.
tangible.
But
Like it
It didn't quite nail it down.
Yeah,
it's like someone pitched this really cool cold open. They're like, yeah, let's do that, but they didn't realize that they couldn't figure out a way to do it to where it actually makes sense with the rest of the show. So they're like, whatever, no one will notice. No one will notice.
Some guy pitched this cold open for a different zombie TV show, and they were like, fuck,
Totally.
that's good. Bring it here.
That's good. Let's go. Let's do that.
Let's change the names and shit. I got this.
Yeah, totally.
Oh man.
And what's interesting too is that that's the chick in the cold open that like randomly stabs, like just like goes apeshit crazy and stabs that dude in the neck. You're like, oh shit. It's great.
It was very
it was nuts.
Which Day of the Dead? Dawn of the Dead?
Yeah. Dawn of the Dead, yeah.
We go back to Kai and her team, and they eventually make it to the ship. They do the cool like space flights and stuff. And they eventually make it to one of the ships, which are the corvettes, right?
Yes.
Corvettes.
Yes.
So their whole big fleet, it's a whole bunch of corvettes, right?
Corvettes, and then there's the super carrier.
I would say the carrier, the big one.
Yeah, which we're going to get to. There's a big daddy ship. So they get onto one of these corvettes, and they then get inside the ship. They kind of breach one of the areas of the ship. They get inside, and the battle commences, and they fight against a whole bunch of elites. And they are not doing well, but they sort of get to one of, I guess it's like the back of the ship where they can see through like a force field at like the rest of everything going on around, and they're not doing well. But then, hey, like the rest of the fleet arrives, and there's like a resupply ship, I guess, that arrives that are like, hey, we can give you some supplies and stuff. And you're thinking, oh, okay, cool, they're saved, everything's nope. They get vaporized by the big daddy ship, which you said is called a super carrier.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, that's like the
massive.
They use like the planet the
glasser.
The glasser to vaporize that ship.
I was going to ask, was that the same weapon that they used to glass planets?
Oh, for sure.
It looked like it.
Definitely looked. It looked like the same kind of beam.
Yeah, because it's easily one of the Covenant's like most powerful weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it freaking annihilated that ship. That whole ship just got like vaporized.
Yeah, that was a full cruiser battleship too, UNSC battleship.
Yeah, absolutely. That was like the flagship, wasn't it? Didn't they say we're the flagship, blah, 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 or whatever?
Like a big support ship kind of thing, yeah.
It was like it was like basically the leader of that battalion coming in and be like, we got shit, we're dead.
Chief is still watching on, and you can just see in his face, he wants to join that fight. He like desperately wants to
kind of like that Jeopardy moment where he's like, fight Halo, like do, do, do.
Parangosky very much tells him that, like, the Spartan 3s, that whole fleet, they are there to buy him time. Like, he needs to get to the Halo. They're there to buy him time so that he can get there unimpeded, kind of thing. And that's where Chief flips his coin. And he has this flashback where he spoke to Perez on Reach just before the planet was destroyed, where they talk about his luck and how he got it right 11 out of 11 times. And I think that he kind of comes to the terms with the fact that he isn't so much lucky as he kind of controls his fate more than anything else. And he then sort of stands up and he puts that helmet on and he gets ready to go. As soon as he put that helmet on, I was like, "Oh, let's go!"
Yeah,
I was
so freaking excited, and I was like, "This is gonna be awesome! This is gonna be awesome!" And then we go back to McKay and Cortana. There's a lot of these. There's a lot of these moments in this episode where they build you up, and then let's go check something else out. Which I love because it keeps you like amped and ready to go. Because there's a lot of really cool scenes that follow, like this scene with McKay and Cortana. So Cortana kind of recommends that they get to a drop ship as their ship is taking damage. I did not understand this at all initially in this scene. I was like, why is their ship taking damage? Are they being shot by the fleet or what's happening? It actually gets explained later. It actually gets explained later that their ship is I think burning up in the atmosphere, or it's a part of the gravitational pull.
It's sustained too much damage from the fleet to survive re-entry into the atmosphere.
I think Parangosky has some dialogue where she talks about it being attacked, and there was a brief shot where you can see the Covenant Armada like firing on them.
Yeah. Cortana explains it.
Yeah.
She says she basically says you've sustained too much damage. You're not going to make
because they'll branded as like heretics by the hierarchs and junk.
What I liked about the rest of the scene was Cortana then she says that she can answer any question. She's got like all of this knowledge. She can answer any question except about Master Chief because she has this loyalty to him. And McKay then says she's going to erase Cortana because she's done with him, and Cortana's loyalty to Master Chief could be, a hindrance to McKay later on. And she smashes that device that's holding Cortana, and Cortana disappears. And I think I don't know, I don't know who would think that oh no, Cortana's gone, but clearly she's not going to be gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Cortana. But I guess if you've never played the games, if you don't know who Cortana is, maybe you were like, oh, she's not gone. But this moment, I don't know, it didn't hit enough for me because it was you just smashed a device. I mean, we've had moments like that already where Chief died and then he was brought back to life, and Cortana was taken out of him. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that she could do something to get out of there.
I feel like this is just really making McKay. They're just doing a lot of work here to make McKay seem more like the villain, right? Like she's just making too many bad choices, to really be redeemable. So I think they're really leaning her more towards where season 1 you were kind of not sure where her allegiances lie and how she falls in the two sides. Now she's kind of not either side. She's just her own. She's a chaos maker, right? She's just doing everything for herself. So that's kind of seems like where it's kind of netting out.
Yeah, I like that for McKay. I think she says later in the episode that she doesn't have any allegiance to anyone. She's just herself.
Yeah.
And the Arbiter. She wants the Arbiter with her, and they're gonna create a peaceful world or whatever. So I like what they're doing with McKay. I think they've kind of they've given her character a bit more substance, and I definitely enjoyed her season 2 a lot more than season 1. I'll tell you that. So then we head back to Kai, and they are continuing to suffer. And I think this is going to be one of the coolest scenes of the whole episode for those who have played the games. So Kai, Perez, the whole team, they're really suffering, and they're running out of ammo. So Kai says, "Hey, you ever shot a plasma rifle before?"
I love that part.
And Perez is like, "No, never." And Kai's like, "Well, there's nothing like your first." And then they grab the plasma rifles and start fighting with them. And then Perez gets hit badly. Yeah.
I was just saying, not to be a dick, but they don't actually pick up plasma rifles.
They
She
weren't.
picks up a carbine and a needler, not the plasma rifle.
Yeah.
What is the carbine?
Why not
shoot?
plasma pistols of all things? Where's the plasma pistols at? But
That's a good point. Yeah, the pistol. Yeah.
I noticed that too, Tom.
plasma-
That Kai was shooting a carbine, and then Perez got the needlers.
Just the needlers, but none of them were plasma rifles. It's
I mean, either way,
really?
they kind of
Fair
made
enough.
up for it with just that shot of Perez with a dual wielding and the needlers. And I was like, oh
That's-
here we go.
That's what I was going to get to next. I was going to say, if you're a fan of the games, you're seeing because Perez takes a big shot, Kai is dragging her back, and then Perez picks up one of the needlers, and then she picks up another one and goes akimbo with the freaking needlers, which is something you can do in the games.
That's
you
Halo
can actually
2
pick up the
needler
second
action
one.
right there, where you just smoke the dudes with needlers and they just turn into a cloud of pink dust.
Does,
Oh, I
that
was
was-
watching that thinking, this is so freaking dope.
I wish we saw more of the pink dust explosion.
Yeah, I
though.
wanted
feel
to
we
see
didn't-
that.
Yeah, I wish they showed the aftermath of all those needlers hitting a dude.
Yeah,
Well, we saw it
We
in
saw
episode
enough
4,
of it
didn't we?
with Vanek.
Yeah, we saw it in episode 4.
Vanek.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I liked how badass Perez was in the scene and in general. She's really starting to come to her own as a bit of a soldier, because she gets hurt really badly, and she still kind of jokes about it. I think Kai says something to her, and then Perez kind of responds. She says, "I'm an idiot with 2 needlers." I was like, she's cracking jokes now. Dude, it was so good. But yeah, she is hurt really badly, and Kai has the spike, and she's kind of thinking about using it, but there's so many Covenant around, and then bang, big explosion, and hey, it's Master Chief, and he gets in there and kicks some serious ass.
Yeah, we get the a smoky room from afar action shot of laser swords and death, right? It was kind of okay, I get it, but I was a little
Bit cliche, but it's a cool way to reveal. I mean, it
Yeah.
wouldn't have been surprising to see Ben Affleck's Batman pop out,
Yeah,
but it was Master Chief.
I'm Chief.
To be
I
fair,
am
that
Master
feels-
Chief.
The shadow.
So moving on from there, Master Chief just kind of he's in there and he takes out all the Covenant in that sort of area. So he kind of saves Kai and her team. And what was really cool, he has Kai and Chief kind of have this heart to heart where they're looking out at the fleet and everything that's kind of going on. And there was some really cool sort of lines here where she says, Kai says to Chief, she says that that they are the last of their kind. They are the last Spartan 2s because, you know, everybody that's there are Spartan 3s and I guess 4s as well. And then she says Spartans never die, but they do, don't they? And it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, Vanek died. I mean, we have no idea where Riz is. I was hoping to see what happened to Riz, like in some small way. But what I really liked is that so Kai says that, like, you know, Spartans never die, but they do, don't they? I like how Chief replies and he says, not today. And then he's kind of like, you know, channeling. I feel like he's really starting to channel all of his anger from this whole season. You know, I feel like while he's fighting, I can almost see him thinking about Vanek and thinking about Riz and thinking about how he was manipulated and how he lost reach. And it's kind of, I feel like it feels really well earned. You know, it feels like he actually has like the vengeance on his mind.
I think there's an important line there too where he mentions not leaving anyone behind because that's a big mentality of the video game Master Chief.
Yes, he also says that. He says that they're not going to leave anyone behind today. Like he's like taking charge, and he's like,
made the decision to come and save people. Like,
yeah, because that's another thing I want to get to later. Is talking about how he's grown and how his decision plays into it. But we'll get to that. Kai then heads to, as Master Chief walks out, Kai then heads to the panel, and she's got that spike, and she's kind of thinking about it. She's like, "Oh, I could just put this bad boy in here." But she doesn't do it just yet. But it kind of is there just so we know that, like, that's, you know, she's close to it. We then head back to Quan, and Quan has decided to go with Soren and help him find Kessler and Lyra. And the two of them head off to look for Soren's family. People in the station are kind of just frozen in place. This was really cool. It's kind of chilling. I really like this, where the people were kind of just frozen in place. They just weren't moving. I don't know if you guys have played a video game called Control, but in Control there's an infection there as well where people they float in the middle in the air, but they're also kind of just frozen in the air, and you can sort of hear their voices kind of thing, but they're just frozen. And there's something so eerie and so creepy about people that are just completely like frozen. Not like frozen in ice, but just frozen, like they're just emotionless, they don't move. Like, it's just so chilling. And then Quan kind of goes up closer to one of them and says, like, they're not breathing. And I was like, okay, that's even creepier. Why are they not breathing? Is that a thing for the flood stuff?
Well, I don't. Maybe they killed. Like, I don't know. I think they changed it again because I don't think the flood
feels more like
takes you over.
The adoption for the TV show version of the flood.
Yeah, because the flooding games just kind of takes you over, and like when you die, the flood dies.
Okay. Because that was creepy where she's like, yeah, they're not even breathing. I was like, so is it like rigor mortis? So they're just like dead and frozen?
I saw it as because it's a microorganism. What's happening is it's that transition period of where the flood's taken over the brain and the body just goes still while it's happening.
As it's kind of doing its... Okay, that's a cool theory. I like that.
No, yeah, that's
a good explanation of it. But as they leave this area, there's one of the last infected that they walk past. He's kind of frozen, and then he sort of like clicks and like jolts and like looks at them. And immediately, the first thing I'm thinking here is this seems very The Last of Us, with like the clicking and the like sudden jolt kind of movements and stuff. So all of the zombie tropes, all like this is a full-on zombies. Like this is just straight up zombies now.
Yeah, and I thought that too. I kind of did an eye roll. Like this feels like a zombie. It's turning into a zombie show, which was nice about the flood. It kind of never felt like that. It felt different. Like it felt more like a unique take on it. And this was even before Last of Us, right? Before like the spores and stuff. Long before. So like the fact that they kind of turned this into kind of like a zombie show trope thing kind of made me again, I did an eye roll. Like I wasn't really into it. It didn't feel like they're doing anything new here.
We then go back to Lyra, Kessler, and Ackerson, and that infected lady that was kind of just stationary. I guess that's the part where like it's now completely taken over and she can move again. And she's got like this massive growth out of the side of her. It looks like a mump. What are those things? Mumps?
This is Balthazar. He's an evil demon who spits fire in my throat.
She like tries to phase through the cell. She like squeezes herself through the cell, and like it starts distorting her body. And I was like, it's even gross still. Like it's still gross. And it starts trying to reach out at Kessler and Lyra. And it then grows a freaking tentacle. And this is what we were going to talk about. It grows a tentacle out of that mump growth thing out of its neck, and there's like this massive tentacle type thing that grows out, and that's where it becomes very Resident Evil. Moving on to a different genre of zombies.
See, now this is where
Is
like
that,
we were
is that
talking about
something
this,
from the games?
but because in the games, that's where she looks more flood there because of the big growth on the side of her head. Because like the human flood, as you see them, a lot of times they retain a lot of their lower body features. You can see their legs, you can see their arms, and it's the top portion that turns into this large mass where you can still see like their face, but it's just a growth. And then you get the little bits and bobs growing out of that. So that's where I'm like, okay, this feels more proper flood. I see where you guys are making the Resident Evil comparison, but again, it still feels a little different.
Sure.
It's of the same genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like if you like Resident Evil 2, like felt like that some of the bosses in that game, if that moment felt very Resident Evil 2. I don't know what, like it just was like, oh, okay, I've seen that boss.
The fact that you're in like
a
the fact that you're in like this dark like basement level prison cell, like
But
it just
all
really
of them
felt
start
like
doing that
Resident
though,
Evil
and you're like,
type of
that's
stuff.
terrifying to think that all the people
Yeah.
could eventually turn into this thing, and then
No, totally.
the flood can amass together, and then they've got like the pod things that explode and shoot out the parasites. Like, oof, if we start getting those,
Yeah,
It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the scene, Ackerson then comes around, I guess begins his redemption tour and saves the day because the guard that's like the obviously looking after them, he's also frozen in place. And I think they don't know what the frozen in place thing means yet because like Ackerson's like saying, God, like you need to help them. But he then takes the gun out of the guard's holster and shoots the lady. And saves Leroy and Kessler, which is like I think this is where he's starting to redeem himself. It's starting to show that he cares about people. And that's where I was like, come on, Axon, I'm ready to see you become a good guy. I love him. I think it's cool. The guard then kind of goes all crazy and he turns on Ackerson, and Ackerson's run out of ammo, so he's got nowhere to defend himself. And then Soren and Kwan, we see Soren and Kwan then looking at security cameras, and they find out where they are. And then obviously Soren arrives and saves Ackerson. Or I think he's at this point he's only heading down there, but eventually gets down there and saves Ackerson, and then Soren is reunited with his family. So at least there's kind of the happy ending, but now they've got to get out of there, and there's a lot more to that we'll get to. We then go back to Parangoski, and she's actually brought Halsey up to the main bridge or the main area or whatever. I'm wondering if that's where she went at the end of last episode. Remember I said she kind of just disappeared?
So she must have just went
I'm
up there on
wondering
her
if
own.
maybe if she went up there, or if maybe someone came to like take her up. Like it was very kind of strange how she just disappeared. I think it was very convenient though for the writing because she had to not be there when the spore like container thing was open because she had to not be infected at that point at least.
Well, but then she ends up back there. So yeah, it was like that whole moment. Like she was like there to talk to Chief for 2 seconds and have a redemption moment here, right?
Yeah.
The blocking on the show is a little wonky. Yeah.
It's a little bit weird sometimes, yeah. But Parangoski has brought Halsey up there and basically says to Halsey, like, you need to try and convince Chief to go for the Halo because Halo is headed for McKay's ship. Like, this is where it kind of got confusing as well because Chief was like, yeah, I leave no man behind. We're going to save all the Spartans. But, like, he saved, like, 4 Spartans and Kai and then now is heading for McKay's ship again. I was like, "Oh, you done with that already?" Or...
It's just all of a sudden he's in flight, like pursuing the ship.
He's going straight up. I guess, like, so the way I was going to justify this is because later in that scene, you find out, like, I'm thinking, why is he going after McKay's ship? Like, I thought he was going to help the Spartans, but then I started thinking, oh, but he knows Cortana is with McKay. He wants to get Cortana first, and then he can. Like with Cortana, he can then become like the super soldier he was. He feels like he's at his best with Cortana. As soon as he gets her, he's going to then head back to the fleet. That's kind of where I think his mind was, or at least what I thought.
Yeah. They alluded. Even Halsey knows this and is like the entrance. She knows what he's doing to get to Cortana, and she's like, because even Paragosi's like, well, I'll build you another Cortana. I'll build you another. Like, don't do this. But I'm still mad because, like, how the fuck does he know she's still on the ship? Because he saw the drop ship. He knows McKay's not on the ship. Because don't they tell him like the ship's gonna the
ship's about to be destroyed? Yeah.
Or like there's a moment.
I think they
where,
say like a pod was deployed.
There's an escape pod heading down to the blah. Like So why does he think McKay wouldn't take Cortana? Like, how does he just know that like she would leave Cortana behind? There's a lot of plot points here where I get really angry because it like narratively other characters shouldn't know what's going on or that would be the point, or that would be the thing to do structurally to make this episode work. Like I feel like they're missing plot devices to kind of connect the dots in some homes.
They use a few too many narrative conveniences to say like, oh, Chief could just have assumed that, instead of saying, well, why would he do this? Why would he make this choice?
Or the running notion that there's too much stuff getting left on the editing room floor because they had to cut this thing down. And like I said before we started recording, that I felt like this episode should have been like a bit longer, or at least we needed more time with certain things, and like a quick little like shot explainer of like, oh, okay, I understand that this is happening, so we know that they know.
They could have split this episode into two and expanded on stuff.
They absolutely could have.
Totally. Yeah.
Totally. But one thing that I thought was quite interesting is something we kind of joked about earlier in this watching now. I think it was episode 2 of the series. We joked about creating another AI. Like, I think Tom was like, yeah, you could just create another AI. It's not a difficult thing to do. Dan's like,
it wasn't like an easy process, Tom.
And I love in this scene how Parangosky says to Halsey, like, oh, you can just make him another one. Just get him to the Halo. And I was like, that's really funny because she's underplaying how much of a mission it was to make Cortana. Or maybe she's even hinting at the weapon and sort of saying like, make another one.
That's jumping way too far ahead.
We've already gone too far ahead with the flood, so let's not go too far ahead. But that was kind of interesting. I thought it was really funny. I thought you guys might have a laugh at that. Just make another one. Easy.
Why not?
Just make another one.
Like 5.
And at that point, we get back to that mysterious voice that's been talking to Chief. We still don't know who it is yet. And he kind of justifies why he went for Cortana. One of the big things is that he says, she knows me. Which is kind of like, that's like, there's some kind of, and I think Drew, you said it earlier in the season as well, is that there's the super powerful bond that we're supposed to believe Chief and Cortana have, but we haven't seen much of that.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they're that connected, and
well, they've been
also like
been together the whole season, right? So it's just
this following scene.
Yeah.
This following scene is the first time they've actually seen each other, like properly sort of seen each other for the entire season. Well, we get onto the ship eventually, and Cortana has survived. Anyone who thought that she was actually dead, don't worry, guys. She's okay.
She was in the ship.
She survived by transferring herself into the ship, gets into the AI systems or whatever, and she tells Chief that it's too late for them, and now they're both going to be destroyed because this ship is going to crash land on Halo, I guess. Again, I was confused. Like, when did the ship take damage? Why is it not able to just land on Halo? It was very confusing. But it basically was going to crash on Halo. And then Chief, badass that he is, just decides to punch the freaking console. And there's like some visual effects on his arm. I guess he's like absorbing Cortana.
Yeah. So that was pulling Cortana into his suit.
Yeah, it was like a punch flash drive.
Yeah, I guess the suit has a computer that can hold Cortana's AI. I guess. I mean, we'll just assume that.
So now that he's absorbed Cortana. How do we think Cortana is with Chief now? Do you think it's like a chip thing, or
she's just transferred in his suit now? She transferred just his suit AI at this point.
Or just in the suit.
Is there an AI in the suit?
Now there is.
Is there like a processing
there is now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's strange. It's strange too because later on, and I mean, we'll get this, but he visually sees Cortana as a hologram. So I guess the suit has a hologram function. I don't know.
It's all it's like they spend a lot of time explaining how they're gonna like insert Cortana into Chief, into his brain in season 1, and that was like 2 episodes, and then this one it was like less than like 2 seconds, and like Chief's just got Cortana back. I was like, okay,
I think that's what. Also, I think that's what Dan was saying with them just trying to retcon a bunch of stuff to make it feel more like Halo. Instead of like, it has to be inserted in. It's like, nah, she's just in the suit now. Let's keep going.
She's just there.
Yeah, she's
digital.
Just there. Yeah.
We're in a digital age, people.
Yeah, and then like Cortana's like, oh no,
Wi-Fi.
Yeah. They must have a new WPA6 Wi-Fi. Yeah, it's really fast. 100 gigs per second. Sweet.
From Verizon.
Yeah, sponsored by it. They should have like a little Verizon or AT&T plug there.
Episode 1 of season 3, Cortana like pops out and she says, "This hologram is brought to you by AT&T."
Yeah, only fastest uploads possible by. Yeah, and for Cortana's like sitting here telling Chief like, "We're not gonna make it. I've run the calculations. You know, we both die." And he's like, what does he say? He's like, not on my watch kind of vibe. Like, you don't know everything or something. I don't know.
I think he says, you don't know what I can do. Or you don't know. No, you don't know everything. He says you don't know everything.
Yeah, and I was kind of, well, she kind of does. I mean, she kind of knows more than you, I would think. Does. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
But that's the reason why Cortana can't predict what Chief will do, because Chief has always been the most unpredictable person.
Mm-hmm.
Which you mentioned, like, she wouldn't tell McKay out of loyalty. She wouldn't tell McKay about Chief because, like, she doesn't know, because Chief can be like, I'm going to do this one thing, but lol other thing, and just like mess up everything for like the better most of the time.
That ship does crash into Halo, I guess, and we don't really see kind of what happens. The ship just crashes, and then we go back to Soren, and this is the scene where Soren kills the god and saves everything. And Soren gets his family back. He opens up the cell and he gets Kessler and Lyra back, and then he kind of he sees Ackerson. And he kind of just eyeballs him, and he's like, "Oh, I think there's some dialogue where he's just like, oh, well, look what we have here," kind of thing. And then he decides, cool, he's just going to leave him there. Oh, no, wait, he comes back and opens the cell. There's a lot of those moments in the show where they like build it up and then pull the rug, like a cool little punchline. But Soren is like, yeah, cool, you know what? Like, I'm going to keep my eye on you, but I'm going to free you. And Ackerson kind of joins the group. Okay, we then head back to Chief, and Chief wakes up and looks around, and we did it, people. We made it. We're on Halo. We finally made it. Episode 8 of season 2.
16 episodes later.
17.
Yeah. Oh, 17?
17th episode. We finally made it to Halo. 17. And I mean, it's a really dope-ass reveal. You look around, and it's just this beautiful, lush, like, background of nature. And what I really liked, and I wanted to ask you guys if this is an actual thing in the games, is that the burnt and damaged areas of like the environment, they sort of like immediately regrow and heal. Is that something that the Halo does in the games? Is that mentioned at all?
Maybe in the later ones. I don't remember the original games having that, but maybe Halo Infinite or Halo 5.
Because that was really interesting, is because everyone's like, oh yeah, Halo is just this weapon that's just going to obliterate everything. And McKay is like, no, we're going to use it to be peaceful and blah, 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 blah. But then you see the Halo actually like repairs itself and makes things green again. And I'm thinking, ooh, does it have another function? But Cortana has survived too. Obviously, Chief was able to, Wi-Fi her into his suit somehow.
He wifed her.
He wifed her, and she explains that the Halo, she kind of starts looking around, and she says that the Halo is like the perfect fusion of artificial intelligence and organic life, which is kind of cool. And she then guides Chief to like, there's this big structure, and Cortana's like, I guess we should go there.
I don't know everything, but I think you should go there.
Yeah. And I liked how Chief immediately is like, it's so nice to have you back. And I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And he heads off there. We then see that McKay and the Arbiter are also heading towards that big structure. And that's when I was like, I was going to tell you guys, remember the end of the last episode? I thought, I'm waiting for Master Chief Arbiter rematch on Halo. And I was like, oh, it's building up. It's building up. I can't wait to see it.
I don't remember if it was exactly around this time frame, but there's that shot that I cannot not shout out. There's that shot of Chief holding his helmet by his side. And that is 1-to-1 to the Halo Infinite trailer. Of him holding it's a 1-to-1 shot. And I was like, cool. Like I had a little geek out moment at that.
That's cool. Yeah.
I like when they do those little nods and things, like shot recreations and stuff like that. Always really cool. We then get a little bit more detail on the Halo, which I think is we get a little bit more exposition here, which is something we kind of needed throughout the series. But Cortana explains that all of the stuff on the Halo was built so long ago, and it's been waiting all this time. Potentially it's been waiting for Chief. And she says everything has led Chief here. Everything's also led McKay here. But McKay believes in the Halo stuff and all of this as like a prophecy. And Chief's kind of brought up because of fate or whatever. And I like how Chief responds to that. He's like, everyone keeps telling him, oh, you like the chosen one. You like have Forerunner DNA. And like, oh, you're so super important. Chief's like, I don't care. Just show me who to shoot. Show me who to fight. Because even in this scene, Chief says he's here because this is where the fight is. And I like that. I like the fact that he's like, dude, I'm just here to fuck shit up. I don't care about your prophecies and all this other crazy stuff. Anyways, we move on from there. We go back to Perez, and she's alive. I kind of thought that maybe she was going to die at some point here, but she is alive. But she's really, really badly hurt. Kind of reminiscent of how Riz was hurt. It's like kind of, in the mid-region, in the torso. I thought that was... Yeah. I don't think that's supposed to be a comparison, but I thought it was kind of interesting. But Kai has not come back with her. Kai is still on the bridge of the Covenant ship, and she still has the spike. And I'm thinking, oh, crap. If she uses the spike now, it's going to be bad because it's going to wipe everything out, probably including the Halo. And I thought, like, what the hell? Because it looks like she was going to do something. I thought, what the hell is she going to do? And she kind of, like, puts the spike away, and then she's, like, unsure about it, but she starts piloting that big ship. And she flies it directly into that the Big Daddy, what was it called? The super carrier?
Super carrier, whatever.
Like right into its core reactor, or like its big laser cannon, the glass cannon or whatever. And in a really cool looking shot, she pulls an Independence Day. Exactly.
I'm back.
I was just thinking
that. Oh, damn.
Hello,
that's such
boys.
a great reference.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
She Independence Days the super Big Daddy ship. And she destroys it in a really cool shot. We get to see like this big destruction, and we get to see Perez's reaction to it as well, which was a great little scene there. I was going to ask though, is this R.I.P. Kai? Is she dead?
No way.
We do later in the episode. We see her floating in space, but I mean, she looked pretty intact to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. All the other Spartans, they had limbs blown off and shit, and that was just from like the pulsar cannons from the Corvette. So this was like blowing up one of the super carriers, which is like a massive explosion. She was literally right in the center of it.
I don't know how she would survive it. It doesn't make any fucking sense. But,
I mean,
they show her intact floating. Why do that if she's not?
In Halo 3, she fell onto a planet from space and survived the fall because of the way his suit locked up. But they had the same armor though. It was his armor that saved him.
Yeah.
I suppose so. Oh, wait,
and then
isn't it like
Johnson
his suit
goes,
is
for
like
a brick, he felt pretty good.
Like,
isn't his suit like frozen in
up
place, and then they deactivate it, and it kind of goes.
Yeah, his armor locked up to save him, so it could have easily been like Kai's armor locked up to save her, and then she's just like,
it's possible. I hope that she like from there she just goes down into a planet. Halo 3
so
style.
What's going to happen is like she's going to be floating, and then Captain Keyes is going to come on the Pillar of Order, and he's going to save Kai. He's going to have like an eye patch and like a peg leg, like a robot leg. It's like, oh yeah, I barely survived.
Just completely cliche the hell out of it.
If you're not in the writer's room for season 3, fucking make it happen, buddy. If that's not in season 3, listen, put right in.
He needs his
pipe right now. I need pirate keys coming in.
Pirate keys.
That's genius.
But the big explosion from Kai, I mean, that really gives the humans the upper hand. And this is really that false sense of security, like story beats of the episode, right? Is where the humans think, okay, cool, we actually have the upper hand. Yeah, some of the fleets of the Covenant have been taken out, and they kind of have the advantage. And you think, well, the humans are actually going to win this fight. We then go back to Miranda, and Miranda's kind of updating Halsey on what's happening, and she says that was what they got was the sample container, and it has a spore. And Halsey immediately understands what's going on. Like she's like, oh, like she's like losing it, and she immediately tries to leave. But that's when. Like it's a kind of one of those. It's again very, very zombie cliche where an infection starts in this building somewhere, but the people at the top of the building don't know about it, right? Like it's all happening here and spreading, and it's making its way up. So because like you were saying, nobody here knows about it. Everyone's just continuing. It's like a normal average workday. Eventually, the infection makes it to this room, and it's full on zombie styles now, right? Like they're just jumping at people. Were they trying to bite anyone? I don't think they were actually trying to bite anyone.
No,
I don't think it's
or like infect them with the.
Because Halsey gets jumped on, and then the one opens its mouth, or it comes out of her eye, or something like that. Has a little parasite come out, and she's like, ooh, and then the thing gets shot. And then I don't know if we'll put this on the list of maybe one of the most satisfying shots of the whole of season 2. We then look over at Parangoski as she's getting mauled by like 8 of them, like ripped apart. I was like, that's what you get.
I don't think she's getting ripped apart. It looks like they're holding her down to infect her. like
Yeah.
is what I caught. Like it looks like they're going to
Well,
give her the mouth
Well,
fungus, if you know what
if
I
they
mean.
need us, if they
Ooh,
need
they
a
could
mouth
use
osmosis?
Farangosky then. Or they could use Farangosky.
feeling
fuck.
the Captain Keys role where they will infect her,
Right.
and then because so many together, they all just kind of go merge into
Yeah, because
one.
that
and
was
then
the
become-
thought I got too with all of them coming together.
Yeah, that-
like
Ah,
our theory
no.
earlier on, we were talking about Parangosky possibly becoming a grave mind.
Because like everyone else is just like a single flood attacks, but then with Parangosky, it's like okay, everyone jump on. So then it's like a big old hug.
Crap.
That's
Yeah.
really really tight.
Here I
And
was.
then-
Here I was
Yummy.
celebrating Parangosky's death, and now she's going to be the big bad again next
Totally.
season.
Yeah, they'll probably keep her voice too.
Yeah,
Like, she'll
right.
be the voice
We're
of
gonna get the grave mind, like Master
Oh my
Chief.
gosh. So moving on from there, we are in full zombie movie we are in full zombie movie mode where we head down to the basement levels
Totally.
where it's dark and only illuminated by the flashlights of Soren and the group. I was like, dude,
You got
Yeah,
stone
totally.
pillars. It's a parking garage. Zombie movie.
totally, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many zombie cliches in this scene, but let's deal with the Quan stuff first. So Quan is cornered by a whole bunch of the flood, and then the shaman lady appears again. So this is what we were talking about earlier. But the shaman lady here then says, I knew you would deliver us. And she's obviously talking about the flood. But that's why I'm like, earlier the shaman lady was like, run. And then
Yeah.
she says, I knew you would deliver us. And they're all there now. But then the shaman lady is like, I will hold them off for you, but I can't hold them for long. But I'm like, well, then which side are you on?
It was definitely very conflicting because it seemed like the shaman lady was guiding Quan to unleash the flood, but
Right.
then she saves Quan from the flood,
Right.
and it's very like, wait, what? Which side are you playing? Are you your
It's
own
just-
double
yeah.
agent?
it's
Maybe it was a way of like saying thanks.
But she gives like this whole speech, like I was you, I was a protector, like
Yeah.
you. It like
Hmm.
like you're like I have no fucking idea what you're talking about, lady. Even Quan has no idea what you're talking about.
Dude,
Okay.
even Quan. It's like it's actually like super meta. For the first time, Quan is even like, dude, I have no idea what's going on with my
Even
story
she
either,
stands there
guys.
for like a minute, and she's like, "I'm gonna hold them back," and she's like, "I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about." Like it's like a
Quan's
weird,
like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
This whole thing,
It's-
I don't. It's like they're on like the writers' room. They're on like an acid trip right now, and they're like, "Yeah, we're just gonna have this lady speaking to Quan in the spirit world." Like, what the fuck is happening?
This links to my theory what's going to happen with Riz. Because if you remember when they were on the space Amish planet, when Quan was having her, trip, whatever, and she could see the lady, Riz was the only one who would like be like, yo, you okay, Quan? Everyone else was all in red and all just like laser frozen in place, staring. So maybe now that the main flood has been released, it's like sleeper cell activation. It's like the spores, maybe from like bloodlines or descendants, and it sort of activates because that's where the red dots were happening. So it's like, hey, this cult who has had like flood genes for years upon years upon years, that's just like been lying dormant. Now that the actual flood released, they all activate, and that's how the flood spreads super quickly.
Dude, Tom is so freaking attentive.
But how does that tie into Kai? Is she gonna have like a battle, like fight herself away from the
No, 'cause
flood or
Riz.
something? Oh,
Riz.
Riz. Sorry,
because
Riz.
Riz was left on,
Yeah.
she was left on Space Amish planet.
So she's gonna come back.
So,
She's
like-
gonna like, oh shit, I made a bad call. I'm with these crazy people. Now they're flood people. I'm gonna become a Spartan.
No,
again
she's
to
gonna
save
die.
them. Oh,
She's
okay.
gonna die.
Well, that works.
She's
too.
gonna be.
Yeah.
She's gonna
She's
become
gonna
like
get flooded.
a flood
Sorry,
Spartan.
Riz.
Flood Spartan.
You mean-
Fuck, that's crazy.
Is that a
That ain't
thing?
cool.
I'm pretty sure flood Spartans have
That
happened in
is
the
the-
games.
It's happened, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
like
cool as
especially in
hell.
like Halo Wars. I think it happens a lot in Halo Wars.
Oh, dude, imagine a
So-
blood Spartan version of Riz coming back and fighting against Chief.
Right? That's
Like-
some
like that's
motherfucking
Riz,
shit
no.
right there.
We then go back to Miranda, and Halsey has arrived. And Halsey is right back on board her crazy train, and she sees like some of the infected people, and you can see her eyes. She's like, and she starts like smiling, and she's super interested.
like, "It's
and she's
beautiful."
like,
I know.
she's like, she says that. She says it's beautiful. She's so interested in studying them and learning from them, and she doesn't understand why Miranda isn't just as psyched. She's like, what the hell? I don't understand why you. And then she just freezes. And it's the big reveal. She got bit or infected somewhere, and it's on her neck. And she's at that point where she freezes. And it's like, oh, that to me was like, dude, that's crazy. Because at this point, there's no way to stop it. We don't know of any way to stop it or any way to like cure it or anything. So this was like, I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
Thank God they did this, only because this whole episode felt like moment after moment of saving our main characters. Like, it just felt like a constant, like, if you're a red shirt, you're dead on this episode. But if your name is in the title sequence, you're okay. Right.
You're
like
good.
it kind of like it like I never felt at any moment during the show like any of our main people were ever, even the Kai moment I talked about, like didn't feel earned. Like, so in my mind, it wasn't a really good head fake for death scene, right? Like, to make us think that she died. And so the moment that she got stabbed, I was like, finally, it feels like this felt fine, almost final. Like, I was like, oh shit, because everybody else that's infected is pretty fucked, right? Like, there doesn't seem to be a way coming back. But then there's the reveal later where she's put in the cryo. So you're kind of setting that up for, because there's no way they're getting rid of Natasha McClone for. She's like the biggest star of the show. Yeah. I mean, literally, like, she's the face of the show almost.
That's something I was going to point out here as well at this point, because we see Halsey's been infected, and at this point I was going to say, like, it felt very much like, yeah, cool, the Flood are here, but they don't seem so dangerous because all the main characters seem to be able to get away. They don't really, it doesn't feel like they've really impacted yet. It's kind of just like, oh, the Flood are here for season 3.
My biggest confusion at that point was how is everyone not getting infected at this point? When else, like, especially when the whole CIC is suddenly infected and turning into zombies, I'm like, how come everyone isn't infected right now?
Yeah.
How is Miranda not infected?
It's narrative convenience, I think, for a lot of it.
Yeah.
But what I liked about this was Halsey, one of the main characters, got infected, and I was like, okay, now it feels like there's actual stakes here. Like, it's an actual threat. We then move on to the next scene where we get back to the group, and Quan eventually catches up with everyone. And then, Lyra says to Soren, yeah, take Kessler. And then she lags behind and shuts the door and reveals that she too got infected. And she then, I mean, it's a heartbreaking scene. I haven't teared up throughout the season, maybe a little bit for Vanek, but this scene killed me, dude, where she walks backwards and fades into the darkness as Soren is like trying to beat that door down. And that was like a huge moment. So that's where it felt like, okay, shit, the Flood are dangerous and they are a huge spanner in the works. So that's where I feel like the Flood actually kind of earned their right to be in this episode, because it felt like this is just like they really, really hurt us at this point. Soren and Atkinson take the group away on a ship, and Kessler keeps asking, like, where's my mom? Where's my mom? And Soren then goes up to Kessler and tries to comfort him a little bit. And this is where we were talking about the monster earlier, is that he's like, yeah, there actually is a monster, and it's kind of like, I feel like, yeah, it's a really good moment if you're a parent, because you're kind of saying, you want to always tell your kids that, like, no, the world is beautiful outside, but it's going to get to a point where your kids are going to see the evil that exists, kind of thing. And you're going to have to tell them, like, yeah, shit, I try to shelter you from this, but there's only so much I can do, kind of thing. So my little heart broke there for Soren. I love Soren. He's like one of my favorite characters, man.
Totally.
And that was a tough one to take, for sure.
Yeah.
So then we head back to Halo, and Chief catches up to McKay. It's so cool actually saying, like, Chief's on Halo. Like, hey, we're heading back to Halo.
Right.
Anyways,
Who knew?
Chief catches up to McKay and the Arbiter, and here it is, the big scene. I called it last week where I was like, I'm so excited. I think we'll see this. And it's the big scene, the Arbiter versus Master Chief rematch. But now Chief has his armor and he's got a plasma sword as well. And these two go at it. And it is so brutal and it's so well shot and it looks great. What did you guys think of the scene? Because I thought it was freaking amazingly well done.
I thought it looked really cool. And I think Dan must have liked the use of the hook.
I would say that was very reminiscent of Halo Infinite, where you'd grab dudes and zip in on them and then like punch them in the face or something.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so cool. I was waiting for this rematch and I was really excited that we got it. And on the Halo right at the end, it was super dope. The Arbiter's kind of like, he pretty much like, you don't know when to die, do you? Or like, you just won't stay dead kind of thing. And then she fights back. This is where he starts using the grappling gun as well. And eventually he gets the upper hand and then sort of tackles the Arbiter to the ground and starts beating the crap out of him, Fight Club style. He's pummeling the crap. And I was thinking, like, it kind of looked like he broke his jaw because like the Covenant, they have like 4 little
mandibles
mouths, I guess. And I'm like, how do they speak out of that? How does it form words and stuff? But I mean, clearly they don't form words because I mean the Arbiter had one of his completely dislodged. He
Yeah,
got
it was
pounded
pretty gnarly.
really brutally.
Yeah.
And it was quite a hectic scene here as well because there's some heavy dialogue where the Arbiter says to Chief in Sanghili, he says, "Kill me, demon, end my shame." Right, so that's the whole thing about the Arbiter is he needs to redeem himself, and he's like, "Please honor me by taking my life," which was like quite crazy. And then McKay actually gets quite emotional about losing the Arbiter, and she sort of starts. She's kind of Arbiter starts saying to McKay like, "Tell him to kill me." Tell him to kill me. And McKay's like, no, she doesn't want to do that. And, what I thought was cold af was that Chief says, I knew exactly what you were saying the entire time. And then just bam, stabs him in the chest. That was brutal.
That was
I felt
cool.
kind of bad for the Arbiter there at the end, honestly.
I thought that was really cool. Like, yeah, it was like, because there's a moment there where I was like, oh shit, they're gonna, he's not gonna kill him. Like, like he's obviously defeated, and Chief doesn't. Like, there's a moment where I'm like, okay, is there a moment where the Arbiter turns to kind of like, or McKay kind of makes Chief, says to Chief, like, he can be with us, or so, I don't know. Like, there was a moment here where I was like, I thought they were going to make the Arbiter kind of like turn, like, he's to save him. Chief's not going to kill him. The Arbiter is then going to realize, okay, maybe Chief's not so bad, blah, 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 blah. Right. But then Chief just executes him. And I was like, okay, here we go.
Straight up, just like, bam.
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah.
We see that McKay then activates this device on the Halo, which opens up a big door in front of her, and she heads inside this big structure. Chief then kind of goes for it as well. Before she heads in there, she tells Chief that, which is something that's alluded to earlier as well, is that she says that war always follows Chief, right? Like, Chief always says he needs to be where the fight is. And McKay kind of says that, like, well, war always follows you around, And she's trying to convince him to use the Halo to destroy everything else out there to create peace. So we obviously, we hammer it in that that's what McKay's motivation is. She heads inside, and then Chief activates this device as well and heads inside. So I guess McKay as well. McKay's got a connection back if she was able to activate that door.
Yeah,
Or
well, I mean, we know
So I'm assuming.
they both have a connection to the artifact in the.
But she lost her connection. I mean, she even said last episode that she is fallen.
Osmosis,
she lost
buddy.
her
She got
connection.
it back. She got it back.
Osmosis. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Or that was just a regular old push button.
It could have been a
Or,
regular
yeah, it
push
could have been.
button.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
We then head inside this big structure, and Chief talks with that voice again. And I like what he talked about here. He said that the UNSC took his image and used it for their own means to like help rally their soldiers and things, and that Chief took it back. So basically saying like he is the Master Chief now. I think very much like what you were saying, Dan, is at the beginning of the first game, Chief is very much on his own as a soldier. I think he's very much going to get back to that. Season 3, I don't think he's going to follow anyone. He's just going to do kind of his own thing.
It's going to be just him and Cortana, ideally.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. But he then tells the voice that he can't trust McKay because she is dangerous. And this voice is like, well, hey, she said that about you, bro. We then see who this mysterious voice is that we've been wondering about all episode. And it's Wheatley from Portal 2, right?
I honestly do wish I could take it all back. And not just because I'm stranded in space.
I'm in space.
I know you are, mate. Yeah, we're both in space.
That's who it is?
Yeah.
Different franchise.
It's not Wheatley.
Or
No,
is
it's
it,
not
is,
Wheatley.
it, is it the Guardian from Eyes Up Guardian? Is it that
Oh,
one?
the ghost.
Yes.
The Ghost.
Oh,
It's Ghost.
Maybe he
obviously,
also hangs from the
that's who it is.
ceiling.
Some Peter Dinklage.
He's like attached.
Okay, it's clearly not those people. So Dan, Tom, tell us who.
That was 343 Guilty Spark, the monitor of Installation 01. It's basically an AI system that runs and controls the Halo. So like he is waiting for someone, a human, to come there and utilize them to use the Halo essentially. So that when you play Halo 1, you learn throughout that you follow Guilty Spark through the Halo as you activate systems essentially. But the Guilty Spark can't do it himself. He needs Master Chief in order to actually do that.
He needs to follow the containment protocols because the flood got it.
Yeah, all the
That's why it's like, hey, you need to turn this on right now, otherwise the universe is fucked.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that Guilty Spark's going to be like a guide for Chief as he's kind of exploring the inner workings of the Halo.
Guide is one word. One of the things he'll be.
Okay.
Guide.
Right. Well,
Nemesis.
it is at this point
Very
that
loose.
Chief then puts his broken helmet back on. I
Yeah.
didn't see his helmet get broken
I
at
didn't
any
either.
point, but he's missing a whole big chunk of that lens, which is what you see in the opening cinematic, the opening title
It did get
sequence.
kinda
You
like-
actually see that.
It did take some damage during the fight with the Arbiter. There was a point where you see it and you can see there's like a damaged
cracked.
portion. Yeah, but it wasn't broken through.
Yeah, it sort of made you to assume that he'd gone through some battles to get to this point to talk to this guy or something. Like something's gone down. But again,
Yeah, fair enough.
very weak connection here. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if they needed the broken visor thing. Like
I don't think so.
it
at
just
all.
raised more
Yeah.
questions than it does solidify continuity. Yeah, it just kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
But talking about raised questions, there are a bunch of raised questions after that episode. There is a lot that's been set up. There are tons of story threads that have been neatly tied up, but a ton more that have been opened up very widely. So here's hoping we get a season 3, which has still not been confirmed. Paramount, please confirm it. But that was season 2 of Halo. So let's jump into our final episode rating, and let's see what our scoreboard looks like for episode 8 of season 2.
I'll go first, as
Do
I
it.
normally do.
Do it.
Because then you guys just take what everything I say and say the exact opposite.
Yeah, but just be, Drew said
was
it
so
well.
wrong.
I don't need to say anything.
Drew was wrong. He was wrong. You know what? Just clip
Tom
that
could just try to
and send it.
Make it shut up Drew instead of shut
Done.
up Tom.
Totally. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, you know what? I wasn't jiving with this episode. I really kind of didn't. The pacing felt weird. I thought the action was a bit soft. There were good moments, don't get me wrong, like really cool, strong moments, but overall, like I thought they just it felt haphazardly put together. Like they didn't really have a good way of tying things up in a satisfying way. This felt like it should have been more mid-season finale than a season finale. It just didn't hit with the impact. And at the end of the day, it still doesn't. Season 1 had better action. I'm gonna say season 1 had better action scenes. The scene with season 1, episode 4,
Fair
with the
enough.
when he's on the warthog and the other
Mhm.
Spartans, and he's talking to Cortana, and then the final episode, there's that big battle on that, and it's all one scene. Like there's no cutaways back to like here's what's happening on this planet and here's what's happening with this. Like it's a whole long, like 10-minute action sequence. Here, the action seems to be like broken up, and like you're in the middle of an action moment, and then it cuts to McKay, or you're middle action, it cuts to Miranda, and it just like I never felt like I was in it. Like I never felt like it never felt too excited about any moment. Where season 1, I would like be watching is like this is cool, like this is dope. So it misses the mark here, and it should have been the best episode of the season, and it came in the middle of the road for me. I'm unfortunate. I mean, I'm going to give this like a 7. I wasn't feeling it, and it sets up way too many things. The flood came in. The whole episode's about the flood mostly, and it doesn't really resolve a lot of the core problems and things they brought up throughout the whole season. I don't know. I was a little disappointed by the whole thing.
I actually really liked the episode. I liked it for its chaoticness. I think it threw just everything at the wall. And I think where there are some criticisms is that not everything stuck. I do agree 100%. One thing I was going to say here is this is the perfect mid-season finale. I think if they said, hey, season 2 is going to be a part 1, part 2 kind of thing, and the mid-season finale is them finding the Halo, and then the second part of the season is dealing with the flood and the Covenant and whatever, that kind of makes a little bit more sense. Because the biggest criticism I have on the flood is that we've gone through 8 episodes of dealing with the Covenant finding the Halo. All of a sudden, in the last episode, there's a new bad guy that we just don't even get to know. As I said, it would have been cool if the cold open that we got, where that first infected lady stabs the guy or does whatever, if that was just one scene right at the end of this episode, and they spent more time on the actual story of this season, that I think would have been more impactful, and we would have been like, what the hell's going on? Having said that, so there's issues with the pacing and the story. the way they handled the story and the plot of this episode. But having said that, I really like the action sequences. I love the space fights and stuff. I loved the Chief Arbiter showdown. I liked all the zombie cliche stuff. I thought it was pretty cool. So I enjoyed the episode, but it does have its flaws. It does have its issues. So for me, I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I kind of agree a lot with Nick. Like, the pacing issues, I feel like they could have split it up into like an episode 8 and 9 with one more focused on Flood, one more focused on space battles and junk. But yeah, I liked how it kept jumping back and forth, because I'm like, I really liked how it got really deep into like, oh, so like now we're doing Flood, we're deep into that. And just like all the different theories I could keep making. I really enjoyed all that sort of stuff. I don't want the Flood anymore because they look gross and creepy and I don't like them. So they can just like go in the bin. I was the one who was saying the entire time, oh yeah, the flood, but like, you know, they look gross, burn them. And yeah, as I said, I'm keen to see, don't know if we'll get a season 3, but I think overall this season's done better, so hopefully. But I think, yeah, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10 as well. Just because, yeah, I enjoyed a lot more than I didn't like. Like the pros outweighed the cons a lot for me.
That's how I feel as well. Yeah, I feel like it's just flashy enough that I can ignore some of the critiques I have.
Yeah, I very much agree with everyone so far, and like a little bit more with Drew, like how there's a lot of continuity errors. And one of the things I was saying before we started recording was I felt like this episode needed to be longer, because I don't mind that it jumped around as much, but I think they needed more time in each one of the jumps to really flesh things out or let them breathe a little bit more. Especially like the fight scenes, like you said, Drew, like some of the fights weren't as good. We did get like the Reach episode, which was like an entire episode of fighting and battles, which was pretty badass.
Pretty awesome. Yeah.
Which is kind of like the highlight of the season. And I would have liked a lot more of that. I think one of the things they did really good though with this episode is they're setting themselves up for the next season to be like, okay, we did a lot of retconning. We've moved the story along to where we need it to be. Now with season 3, if they get one, they can really kind of like give the show it's all that they need, especially if they get the budget for it, because I know that they had a lot of budget restrictions with this season. That's why we didn't get 4 episodes of Reach battles, because they just didn't have the budget for it. But yeah, I'm going back and forth. Like when I first watched the episode, I was like, it was really high in my mind, and I was like, oh, that was really cool. But then like thinking back on a lot of this stuff, it's like, yeah, but there was this plot point hole. There was this thing that didn't make sense. I didn't know what was going on with the Flood. I'm still annoyed that we even got the Flood this season. I've been like saying it from the beginning. I'm like, don't do the Flood yet. Don't do the Flood. No Flood. No Flood. It's too soon. I would have been happier for the Flood to have been like mid-season 3 reveal. To be like, oh shit, there's something worse than the Covenant, because I also feel like we haven't gotten enough of knowing how much of a threat the Covenant is. It's like they're there, they're bad, they're scary, but we haven't really seen it a lot. We haven't felt a lot of it. So yeah, I'm like, there's so many cool things about this episode, but shit, hopefully this is a lot of course correction. So I'm gonna give him like a 7.5 on this one, because it's still really cool. There was a lot of great action. There's a lot of cool shit that happened. I love the references. I love seeing Chief's helmet. And they're trying their best to like tie everything together, but also they're skirting a lot of their logic. So. Yeah.
That is it, everybody. That is our scoreboard for the final episode of season 2 of Halo. We did it, guys. We made it to the end of season 2. Here we are, and we're all kind of loving it, hoping for a season 3. We have not heard yet, but we will be the first ones to let you, or maybe not the first ones to let you know, but we'll let you know as soon as we can. But that has been it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you've watched with us throughout the entire series, thank you so much for joining us on this adventure. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Drew, for being here with us and enduring this fight with us. Once again, big, huge thank you to Paramount Plus for sponsoring this video. We appreciate you guys. Head down to the description, find the link there to Paramount Plus, become a member there so you can watch cool stuff like Halo. And then you can watch us talk about cool stuff like Halo. So thank you, Paramount Plus. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support. And yeah, that about wraps it up, guys. Stay tuned, because next week we will be back for one final episode where we are going to recap the season at large, talk about our favorite moments, our favorite characters. Should be a fun one. So make sure you join in on that. Maybe we'll talk about our funniest lines or moments, like talking about Spartan dad bod, osmosis.
I like it.
My
There's a
favorite
lot
is
of things.
Mackie. My favorite is Mackie.
Mackie and Hazley and what were the other ones? It was just those.
Vernacular.
Vernacular.
Oh my god. We'll get to that
It's
next
like,
week.
It's like
but-
vernacular, but not.
We need just like a clip of all of the mispronunciations.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Just be
Oh
Nick.
man. We'll get to that. We'll get to that next week. But as for now, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you head on over to CouchSoup.com, become a member, because hey, why not? We're a cool bunch of people. Try and support us. And we've got a whole bunch of cool stuff on YouTube. Make sure you catch us next week, Tuesday, 2 p.m. PST, over on our YouTube channel. Join the live premiere where we can talk shit the whole time. Drew's got some merch as well. There's some cool stuff. There it is. There it is. And yeah, just keep it locked in here for all other cool stuff, pop culture related. We love you guys. Thank you for the support, and we'll see you again very soon. Peace out.
Deadbot Spartan.
Bye, guys. Yeah,
Osmosis.
Osmosis.
Space Amish.
No.
One final one.
Yeah.